learnt about primitive forms of biological life.
This reminds me of early organisms that had eyes, so things like snails, trilobites, even woodlice that we get in our gardens. They're very, very simple eyes, but they're photoreceptive. They go toward or away from light, and that's the similar sort of thing here, isn't it?
It is. This is like just having one retinal cell. It's like having an eye with only one element, so it can't do an image or anything like that, but it can detect intensity of light. And that's all you need to do.
Of
That's
course.
all the early animals needed to do, and this is an example of really the robotics following the path. Start simple, get complicated.
It is, and it's responding to the environment. And what
Yeah.
you've got in evolution that's taken hundreds of millions of years, this is, I guess, the first robotic eye, and it's evolved from this to where we are now within a few decades.
Essentially, yes.
It's rapid evolution of robots, yet again.
Owen's robotic tortoises are exact replicas of Gray Walter's original design. I want to see for myself how they work. The touch switch and photoelectric light cell, or robotic eye, interact with the circuits controlling the motors, enabling the tortoise to drive and turn.
Like a little retro robot. I'm going to grab this torch and we'll see.
Yep, we'll see what it can do.
See if he works.
Yep, okay.
There
we go. And what you see is the behaviour when it hasn't detected any light.
So it's,
So it's scanning round all the time. We don't like to say it's looking for a light, but if it finds a light, something will happen. So if you'd like to switch the torch on, yeah, and then point it horizontally, yeah, at that,
Oh, wow.
you will see.
He's come straight for me.
And now that it's hit your foot, when the touch switch is activated, it drives forward a bit, turns a bit, forward a bit, turns a bit,
Yeah.
and this enables it to escape from almost any situation. As soon as it's free, it will start scanning for light again. This is what gives the impression of intelligence, in that you see a sequence of behaviors that in context seems to be effective and intelligent.
I mean, this is, for its time, this is incredible ingenuity and workmanship, isn't it?
Gray Walter was one of the first to show that biological principles can be applied to the field of robotics. Although his double-celled organisms were primitive, they were taking the first steps to make sense of their environment. I want to know how far this technology has evolved. How close are robots to making sense of the world around them? And can we trust their decisions? This is quite literally a life and death issue for all of us, because it's starting to play out on our roads.
I'm not the most confident road user at the best of times, but today I'm having a very different driving experience. This may look like a normal vehicle, but it's actually a driverless car. Now, this is a type of robot that's already within our society. They're driving on our roads, and we're putting our life in their hands, so to speak, on a regular basis. Now, I've come to Germany, and I'm going to let this thing be in control as it drives me along one of Germany's busiest roads, an autobahn. A little bit nervous. So this is my first time driving on the left side of a car. It's my first time driving for a long time, an automatic, and it's my first time driving in a robot car. It's a day of firsts.
Joining me on the ride is Safety Officer Andreas and Head of Development, Dr. Miklos Kiss.
I've got to admit, I'm nervous. It's like handing something of a very precious, it's quite a big responsibility to something that I don't quite know how it works.
But any second now, I will hand over the controls to Jack, my trusty driverless car.
It's that anticipation. I'm not sure what to expect. All right, let's see what happens. Go on, Jack. So I need to press these buttons?
Press it. Keep off your hands from the steering wheel and off the feet, off the pedals.
My feet are off. My hands are
Yeah,
off.
that's good. So Jack is acting.
I love how calm you both are. And every instinct in my body has just kicked in, and I can actually feel my adrenaline. I've gone quite hot and quite sweaty, actually. I feel like I'm going to veer off, and I know I won't. What I really want to do is so I can turn around and talk to you now.
Yeah, you can.
And that's safe to do, obviously. Because
That's safe to do.
I'm trying very hard not to think about the fact that right now, my life is in the hands of a robot.
Oh, there's a police car. I feel bad. There's a police car in front of me and I haven't got my hands on the wheel. Sorry, officer. No one's controlling this car right now. My feet are not controlling any special pedals. My hands are here. My eyes are closed. I'm on an autobahn in the middle of Germany. It seems so wrong. But I feel so safe. Almost like a... Oh, we indicated! Thanks, Jack. I wasn't concentrating.
The car's central computer makes sense of the world around it using numerous integrated sensors.
Oh, where are you up to, Jack?
Those at the front and rear of the car look left and right, giving a 360-degree view and a range of 250 meters, while a 3D camera scans traffic conditions and road markings.
So Jack is constantly sensing every vehicle around us right now, I guess in the same way that I'm taking each of my sensors and getting a holistic view. And I guess that's what Jack is doing as well, isn't it?
Well, in some ways, yes.
The car's computer continuously interprets the data from its sensors to generate a 3D map of the world, which it can then safely navigate through. It makes split-second decisions to control the braking, steering, and acceleration.
That's a huge amount of computational sort of power there. What's that comparable to in terms of other vehicles, maybe?
It's comparable to a military jet.
So right now we're driving something that's comparable to a jet fighter.
That's it.
I'm getting over the initial shock of actually letting the car take control, but I'm still nervous about its judgment. I can't quite believe its reactions can be as good as mine.
So worst case scenario, and a really, really worst case scenario, somebody turned a car over in front of us. Now, it's 100 meters ahead of us. Jack would be able to respond quicker than I could.
Yeah, quicker than you could, so maybe we would be caught in that kind of accident, but at least we would do better than the human did.
Yeah.
I would like this car to have superhuman power. So to solve situations I couldn't do on my own.
We just had a motorbike go past, we've got vehicles all around us, and it's responding easily as well as I could, if as you say, if not better. We've slowed down. That was
We'll slow down, we will...
I'm really enjoying cruising along this motorway, but I've still got some niggling doubts. Like, if we did have an accident, who would be responsible? This throws up complex ethical and legal questions.
If we had a crash right now, whose responsibility is it? Is it my fault? Is it the car's fault? I find it very hard to understand that I wouldn't be responsible if this car crashed.
If the system is engaged and accepted it, so the handover is done, then the car is responsible. So the car means, obviously, if the system does something wrong, we at Audi are responsible for what happens.
There are clearly legal issues to resolve, but what's really surprised me is that the more I'm being driven around by Jack, the more I trust him.
I'm trusting the car to do its job. You are trusting the car to work, to order to take that responsibility. Something we're putting a lot of trust into a robot.
Yeah.
It's a big step forward, I think, in our social relationship with robots.
Bizarrely, I do feel comfortable letting a robot take control.
In a couple of years, we won't think about the robot. It will be natural in daily life.
I think that's the nice part of this. So, my grandmother's in her 90s, and she can still remember the first time she saw her very first car. And here we are, 2 generations later, with me with my hands in the air on an autobahn, letting the car drive for me.
But as much as I have been seduced by the sophistication of the car, when we're off the autobahn, it also reveals how little Jack and other driverless cars truly understand about the world around them.
Please take over driving.
So why am I taking over now? What's happening?
because we're in a construction area and we don't know how the lane markings will be and how the side barriers will be. So we don't drive construction areas right now.
Okay.
Despite all its sensors and computer power, without the lane markings of the Autobahn, Jack can't form an accurate enough 3D map of the world to navigate safely. Even I, as a slightly nervous driver, still have the ability to understand the world so much better than any current driverless car. I can not only identify objects, I know what things really are and do. And that allows me to make profound connections and decisions, to cope with much more unpredictable scenarios. Despite the robot car's limitations, I was still amazed to see how far and how fast robots have evolved their ability to make sense of the world. And I wonder if one day it will be possible for robots to understand it in the same way we do. Can they grasp the true meaning of things and develop a sense of self to become individuals?
Yeah? You're going to wave at me now, aren't you?
Could they even become conscious? For humans, the key to our understanding of the world is our ability to learn. To discover what happens when you try to get a robot to learn for itself, I've come to a lab in Japan.
What have we got going on in here?
So this is one of our most exciting projects. It's a robot that can learn.
Awesome.
Can you tell me about the autofocus of this camera?
Things have changed a lot since point and shoot. Grammar is what sort of...
This 80s-looking throwback is called RoboV.
Okay.
For this experiment, Professor Dylan Glass has set RoboV a challenge. Can it learn to be a camera shop salesperson?
Can you tell me about the autofocus of this camera?
The software has been redesigned so that it's a lot more responsive.
So right now we've got this little robot with one of your colleagues.
Yeah, so the robot's playing the role of the shopkeeper, and it's presenting information about the different cameras. And now the thing that we've been exploring lately with this is that the robot can actually be proactive. So it's not like, Siri or something. It's not answering questions. It's proactively offering things or suggesting things as well.
Have you used the Clarin before?
No, I haven't.
The software has been redesigned so that it's a lot more responsive.
Oh, wow. That's very cool.
Some people think it's a bit heavy, but that is what you get when you buy a top-end camera.
To interact with customers and explain camera functions, RoboV is reacting independently.
Yeah, this does weigh quite heavy.
I understand.
What we're exploring here is the concept of how can we program a social robot. Instead of classical programming of robots, where you program explicitly what the robot should do, this robot has learned everything purely from hundreds of interactions that it observed of other people. So this is called learning by imitation.
What's the price?
The body is $2,000. The lenses cost extra.
Oh, wow. Thank you for your help today.
Thanks for that.
To create RoboV's personality, the camera shop scenario was role-played by human shopkeepers and customers.
Hi, this one's $2,000. This camera has 18 preset mode. Hi, this one is $550.
$550. Okay, cool. Thank you.
No problem.
For RoboV to create this database of hundreds of shopkeeper-customer interactions, a network of sensors tracked where people moved and microphones captured what they said.
This one's $68.
$68. Okay, that's really cheap. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
What the robot learns from this, it learns, again, this is unsupervised learning. It learns on its own to imitate the behavior that it's shown. The locations where people stop in the room, the trajectories that people use when they walk to different places, and it learns all of these things, as well as clusters of speech. So maybe you say the same thing in a couple different ways. You might say, how much is this? How much is this camera? How much does this cost? And it'll notice that those are very similar, so it'll cluster them together.
It's quantified times optical zoom. So
And from this data, we had the robot automatically learn the logic of how to be the shopkeeper.
So you've not programmed the robot to be a shopkeeper and you've not told it what to say or how to respond. It's learned from effectively observing the experiences.
Exactly.
Can I have a go?
Yeah, please do.
Can I have some help, please?
Sure, what do you want to know about this camera?
What features does this camera have?
Fantastic quality pictures at a good affordable price. I can show you the cheapest camera and we can talk about it.
Okay. Can you show me this camera?
Of course. It's fantastic quality pictures at a good affordable price.
You want me to buy that one, don't you?
So you are actually a photojournalist and you're used to working with these cameras yourself?
A little bit, yeah. I'll come look at that one then.
Basically, the standard shutter speed goes up to 30 seconds, but then in bulb mode you can keep the shutter open for as long as you choose.
I love this little robot. He's brilliant.
What's most surprising about my chat with RoboV is that this almost feels like an actual conversation I would have with a real shopkeeper.
So this really is a little robot that's behaving just as we would in a quite a complex social situation, in a real world situation.
So this is, I think, a very powerful concept because it can scale up. If we can capture data of how people interact in the real world on a large scale, we can use that big data to train robots to do very natural interactions.
Well, instantly, the applications there are massive. Not only, well, as shopkeepers, but right across the board. You've got medical professions or healthcare and everything.
Now, the real challenge is this balance between how controllable is the robot and how much does it learn on its own. So sometimes the robot does things we're not sure why it does it.
Excuse me?
So basically, we have the top-end photojournalism camera
But
here.
overall, it tends to do pretty good behavior.
It's fascinating.
The other really interesting thing about this is that the robot doesn't know the meaning of anything it does. It's purely behavioral. It's purely imitating what it saw the person do before.
Right, so it's not picking up on keywords, camera or cost or anything like this.
It doesn't even know anything about English.
It's learning through imitation, through experience.
Exactly.
Wow.
What sort of pictures you need?
What's blowing my mind is RoboV's behavior is so human-like that I really believed it had learned to understand what I was saying. But even if it didn't, does that really matter? It could still sell cameras.
As we move forward, it becomes a philosophically interesting problem because now we're really reflecting on how do we learn, how do we think, and how do we, ascribe semantic meaning to things and structure, things in the world. And these machine learning techniques have provided a very interesting lens through which to view the way we do our own thoughts. So in the future, I think that these learning systems are really a part of us, right? Technology is always a part of who we are and a part of our identity. And this is going to allow us to grow in ways we've never been able to grow before.
It's an extraordinary idea that in trying to teach robots to learn human cognitive abilities, we may also learn more about how we think ourselves. The key to this may be to teach robots not to simply mimic our behavior, but to develop a conceptual understanding of the world for themselves, so they can generate human-like thought and behavior spontaneously. I've come to Plymouth University's Centre for Robotics and Neural Systems to meet a team of scientists that is trying to do just that. Their robot is called iCub.
There he is.
This is the iCub.
The famous little iCub. And I say little, I mean, it's astounding just how much he resembles, or I keep saying he already, a small child.
At 1 meter tall and weighing 22 kilos, iCub not only looks like a child, but learns like one too. Angelo Cangelossi, Professor of Artificial Intelligence and Cognition, is his guardian.
It's almost like a 2-year-old child, and in fact, like a 2-year-old child, we are going to teach it the name of objects, one word at a time. That's what children do between 1.5 years of age and 2 years.
You say teach, how does it learn? And what's it got in there somewhere?
The robot has a simulated brain, and as the brain of a child is able to associate, to learn the correspondences between the sound of a word and the picture of an object.
iCub is equipped with cameras to see, microphones to hear, and even SmartSkin to touch. The information it gathers from the stimuli around it is fed into an artificial neural network, a computer system inspired by the human brain. iCub is not simply mimicking human behavior, it is trying to discover for itself the relationships between what it can see, what it can hear, and what it can touch, just like a child. I want to see how it learns.
Right, okay, iCub, let's put the ball there so you can see. Learn ball.
I like to learn. This is a ball.
Okay, brilliant. Let's try another one. What have we got here? Okay, iCub. Learn cup.
I like to learn. This is a cup.
Well done. Right. Okay, so we've taught iCub 2 new objects. How do I know if he's actually learnt this or not?
Let's ask him to name them.
Right, okay.
So you show an object, you can then ask for the name.
What's this?
It should be a cup.
It is a cup. Well done. Okay. I'm going to really test him and see if he can find the one I'm asking for. I'm going to put him close enough. Okay, iCub. Find cup.
Okay, now I'm looking for a cup.
Oh, his eyes are moving, his head's moving.
Yes.
And he's tracking the cup. He's not interested in the ball.
Try to show the ball also.
He doesn't care. He wants...
Oh, he likes
his
the
eyes,
cup.
he wants the cup. He's not interested in the ball whatsoever.
This is because he had learned to do the 2 objects, and therefore it's following what we ask it to do.
This is incredible. So we've literally just taught this cute little robot.
A 2-year-old robot, the names of objects, like a 2-year-old child.
As toddlers interact with the world around them, they learn from one experience to the next, making connections between what they can see and hear to form the basis of context and meaning. These become the building blocks of intelligence and reasoning.
But there are things which are harder. You can recognize a cup because of its shape and its color. You can recognize a ball, again, because of a different shape compared to a cup. But what about teaching a robot or a child to understand the number 1 and number 2? How would you do this?
1, 2, 3.
And like us, the more we learn, the more complex the tasks we can tackle.
Oh, he's looking as well.
1. 2.
This is great. What's going on behind the scenes as he's counting now?
We have a brain, an artificial brain, that's been trained to learn to associate sounds, number words in this case, with its finger position. By doing this, the robot is actually able to use its body to learn that there are sequences which are fixed. For example, 1 comes before 2, 2 before 3, and so on.
I guess that's why iCub is so special, because you've got that wonderful integration between the cognitive capability up in here, but also that physical embodiment. You've got the 2 things combined, haven't you?
This really shows why a body is important for a robot, the same way a body is important for a child.
Children learn by using their motor skills to explore the physical world around them, through touch and movement. As their body interacts with the environment, they learn from each new experience. iCub does the same. In tiny little steps, it is trying to form its own unique understanding of the world and what things actually mean.
And just to be very clear, this is this little robot learning to experience the world around him, to understand more, to have a greater potential of
yes,
cognitive capabilities. where do you see robotics like iCub in a generation or 2 generations' time? Will iCub have grown up and gone to university and gone and learned about the world around him?
I can see this in the longer term. I don't see this happening in the next 5 to 10 years.
We talk about this happening in 20, 30 years' time, and it seems a long while off. We've been evolving for tens of millions of years, and you've got this little entity that's learning about the world around it now, and it's going from a blank slate to this seeing, interactive, responsive little unit. I think that's both the exciting point and the scary point with robotics.
But at the same time, we are in control, so we are determining the evolution of these systems.
For now.
On this journey, we've met some incredible robots. They're preparing for a voyage to Mars, becoming our friends and companions.
My feet are off, my hands are off.
Navigating us through a chaotic world. And some are even able to learn like us.
Learn all.
For me, this is the most exciting time.
I like to learn. This is Evolve.
We are living right at the moment when robots start to gradually piece things together, the first tiny scraps of meaning to create their own unique understanding of the world and themselves.
He wants the car.
Once they've achieved this, we will be on the brink of a new era.
There is no doubt that robots will continue to evolve and become more and more intelligent, and that one day it just might be possible for them to develop consciousness. Imagine a robot that could feel the way I feel, that could be moved by strong emotion, that could love the way I love my daughter. Wouldn't that be incredible?
When I started this journey, my main concern was that if robots could develop minds of their own, they might become a threat. But now I've started to spend more time with robots, I do feel like I can trust them.
It's responding easily.
And if robots really could one day become conscious, we need to think not just about how they might affect us, but how we could affect them. But perhaps my biggest fear right now, as we progress towards conscious machines, is not what we will need to do for robots, but what we will discover about ourselves.
And the whole of our society, our law, our education is based around consciousness, making conscious decisions. And if we show that, well, actually, that's quite trivial and we can reproduce it in an afternoon in a lab, then it's going to make people think, well, how important is human life because it is conscious? Ultimately, the rewards will be positive, but you have to be very, very careful. Socially, it might be disruptive.
The extraordinarily fast evolution of robots really is going to change our place in the world. And that raises urgent social issues for us all.
We need to be responsible to make sure that we stay in control. We have the opportunity right now to prepare for conscious robots that think and feel in the same way we do. To prepare for what I think is the inevitable.
Investigate the past, present and future of robots and their effects on our lives. Go to the address on screen and follow the links to the Open University.
For more on our fascination for robots and what happens when robots go where humans can't, check out Tomorrow's World Online Hub. Now, Quiz continues in 20 minutes, a story from the Blitz. But our first vignette comes from 1967 and a debonair gent with a racy past.